welcome to the Purple LitNerd podcast for November the 18th, 2017. Wow. I am your host, the amazingly adorable Rebecca Thistle, podcasting to you live-ish from my kitchen table in my house, which I call Thistle Do. Yeah. So, I recorded this show like 2 weeks ago. Well, actually, a week ago. And then I realized that I left some stuff out. So I'm re-recording it because I don't know how to edit. Okay? Not yet. I'm working on it. Still a beginner in this. And I'm mostly, I think I'd be fine if I had a PC. Because I kind of know how to use certain programs on a PC, like sound recording programs, and I would know, okay, well, if I start recording here and I insert this here, I think I'd be able to do it, but I'm not entirely sure how to do this on my iPad, so we're just going to re-record it, which is fine, because I love talking, and I'm sort of talking to my air conditioner, because that's kind of like the focal point of my site. So we are doing part 3, which is hopefully the last part, unless I think of some more of these things, of our exploration into literary terms. So, first we talked about point of view, and a little bit about narration and point of view, specifically point of view. And then we talked about figurative language. And I say we as though there's somebody else doing this show. I should say I. And so now I have a bunch of terms, and I don't know how to categorize them. So this is just literary terms, part 3, potluck. I don't know. That's the potluck of literary terms. Yes. So, first term I have on my listy list is foreshadowing, and we see this a lot. I was thinking earlier about, so many young people hate studying literature, and I get it. It's hard to slog through Shakespeare or, oh God forbid, Hawthorne, which, by the way, we will do the Scarlet Letter at some point, just not anytime soon. But and especially with these terms that I'm going to cover today, I see sort of people utilizing these terms when they look at movies and music. That Taylor Swift came out with a couple of new music videos and new songs and stuff, and her fans, and even her haters for that matter, just obsessed for hours and hours on end about her lyrics and about the symbolism in her music videos and stuff like that, and I'm just sitting there going, that's the same thing that I do with books. So, first term, foreshadowing. That's something usually, well, always, early on in a book, whether at the very beginning or the middle or whatever, but that kind of gives a hint as to what's coming. So, have you ever seen the movie The Sixth Sense? Because again, we're talking about Easter eggs and stuff like that. But in the Sixth Sense, you watch the movie, and then there's the big reveal at the end. Oh, Bruce Willis has been a ghost all along. He's really dead and all that. But there's all these little bits of information foreshadowing the truth about that. So you go back and you rewatch it and you find it. That's what foreshadowing is there's hints. You don't see anybody directly interact with Bruce Willis. You see his wife, but she's never actually directly talking to him. There's instances of, anytime there's a ghost around, you see the color red somewhere, and so I guess with every scene with Bruce, there's a something red in there. Like, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but there are little tidbits that point to what the big reveal is at the end, and so that's what foreshadowing is. Next on the list is exposition. Exposition is basically a fancy word for background information. It's a single word that means background information. So I'm noticing there's a lot of this, a lot of this, and I'm in the middle of reading A Song of Ice and Fire. That series. I'm actually in the middle of Storm of Swords, by George R.R. Martin, and I get frustrated sometimes because there are chapters where nothing happens except you get a bunch of exposition. And you're like, yes, this is very helpful, George, but isn't anything else gonna happen? Like, I just finished a chapter with Daenerys Targaryen, and I'm not trying to trash talk George R.R. Martin in any way. I'm not trying to trash these books at all. It's just sometimes a little frustrating because there's this whole chapter, and I listen on audio. So this took me about 30 to 45 minutes to get through this chapter, and nothing fucking happened. Nothing happened. You spent the first half of the chapter sort of describing what had been happening between A Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords, and then she goes into her room, she feeds her dragons, her handy knight guy, Sir Jorah Mormont, comes in and gives her a bunch of background information about this, that, and the other, and tells her about cultures and gives her some ideas, and sort of, there's nothing that really advances the plot. And then after he gives her this expositional information, and, and gives her some speculation, she goes, yes, we will do this, and she makes a decision, and she jumps into action, and the chapter fucking ends, and nothing happened. And so it's a little frustrating to go, yay, it's a Daenerys chapter, because I love Daenerys, and nothing interesting happened. Well, I mean, there was a lot of interesting things. There's just nothing exciting happened. And so anyways, but back to the point. Exposition is information that came before the narrative that you're currently reading. So again, going back to A Song of Ice and Fire, there's all this expositional information. It's just the neighbor. Calm down. My dog hates the neighbors, and my neighbor just started up his truck, and she hates him. I don't know why. Anyways, so, there's all this expositional information about the Targaryen kings and the history of the Lannisters and everything that happened before the start of A Game of Thrones. And so there's a lot that pertains to what the characters are going through in the story, and so you have to pack it in somewhere. So, I guess you have to have whole chapters of nothing but exposition and one decision. Ugh! Anyways, that's exposition. Next on my listy list is theme. So, a theme is an idea that occurs repeatedly in a work of literature. I don't want to say in a novel, because it happens in short stories, it happens in novellas, it happens in poetry, but in literature there's these recurring ideas, and we call them themes. So, for example, in the Harry Potter series, you have this overarching theme of love conquers all. I mean, it just, there are moments where, God bless her, J.K. Rowling really, pounds it into your skull. Love conquers all. Love is the greatest power on earth, and it's great. Sometimes you go, all right, Joe, just cool it. We get it, but that is what a theme is. A motif is similar to a theme. No one's ever sufficiently explained this to me, but I've been doing some research on it specifically for this show, and the best I can come up with is that a motif is not so much an idea that is recurring in a work of literature, but is like an image or an action. So, and it could potentially be symbolic. It could just be there for the hell of it, Who knows? Only the author knows, really. But rather than being a abstract idea, a motif is a more concrete image or action or even piece of dialogue. Like, I reckon that you could call, again, going back to A Song of Ice and Fire, the repetition of winter is coming, you could call that a motif, probably. Somebody tell me I'm wrong. I'm like I said, no one's ever been able to explain this sufficiently to me, and so I had to go look it up, and this is the best that I can come up with to explain this. So if somebody has a better way of explaining it to me, please feel free to contact me and tell me I'm wrong. I will do a retraction and a correction on a future episode. But if I'm right, then I'm right. If I don't hear from anybody, then I'm just going to assume for the rest of my life that I'm right. That a theme is an idea that recurs, and a motif is an image or a piece of dialogue or an action that recurs. Another example I would think of a motif would be in, excuse me, in The Great Gatsby, you have this image of this dilapidated billboard for some optometrist, and it's been weathered and beaten down so much that all that's left is the eyes, and so you have that image recurring, and so I guess that could be a motif. If I've got the definition right, that would be a motif, and a lot of people like to debate upon the symbolism of that motif. So next on my list is allegory. Oh, this is what's fun. Allegory is a character or an event or a piece of, even a huge piece of literature that references or mirrors or parallels, however you want to put it, actual events. So, for example, The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum is supposed to be an allegory, I've been told anyways, about the Industrial Revolution in America in the late 19th century. I'm told that that's what it's an allegory for. Edmund Spencer, is that his name? I always want to call him Thomas Spencer, but I don't think that's his name. But I believe it's Edmund Spencer wrote an epic poem called The Fairy Queen.